What's up everybody, another beautiful day in Azeroth. Tier lists are on the horizon, so here's my top 5 melee DPS in the War Within. This is based mainly on how they play, how fun they are, bonus point if they're visually pleasing. First out on number 5 we have Unholy DK. With the recent reworks, it's become an absolute powerhouse of minions, spawning literal hordes of undead to swarm your enemies. For example, using Doomed Bidding, when you consume Sudden Doom on either Death Coil or Epidemic, you spawn a Mage Skelly, or Magus of the Dead, and you can also make their Shadow Bolts hit 4 targets instead of 1. You're able to have a Pet Abomination that stomps around, spreading disease and festering wounds in its wake, just to name a few things. Now they of course keep a lot of their old stuff in class fantasy, but with these updates, in my opinion, it plays so much better, slamming down Unholy Assault, buffing you and generating 4 festering wounds that you can instantly follow up with Apocalypse, build up new festering wounds and spread them with Vile Contagion, so that everything is covered in delicious festering wounds. And of course we slap an Abomination on top of him and a horde of Skelly Mages to bombard them with Shadowbolt volleys. All the while we're getting insane amounts of strength from Festermite. All in all, it just synergizes well and the rotation is very fun. Adding on hero talents, you have Rider of the Apocalypse, making you spawn 1 to 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, each with their own ability or buff. Most of this is passive, but it does pump a lot, and it is very visually pleasing. But there are things like Migraine having an aura of death and decay, or Trollbane's Chains of Ice, synergizing with Scourge Strike, making it shatter into an AoE. And of course, being able to replace Death's Advance with a Death Charger instead. Bye bye, slow-mo DK. Gotta go fast. Then there's Sunlayan, or whatever it's called, feeding into the Vampiric Fantasy, giving you access to Vampiric Strike, which replaces Scourge Strike when it procs. It heals you for 2% of your max health and stacks haste up to 7%, as well as Death Coil and Scourge Strike damage, and all of this is doubled during Dark Transformation, making that cooldown even stronger. You also have Perma Vampiric Strike during Dark Transformation, so overall it just speeds and smooths out the rotation a ton, as well as beef up your damage. So yeah, Unholy DK got itself a glow up, and the minion fantasy is stronger than ever. Go my minions, do my bidding. Next out, number 4, the reworked Retribution Paladin. Now I've always enjoyed Ret Paladin, but this latest rework just made it a ton more fun, keeping it somewhat simplistic playstyle with a constant spam of spenders, which is so much fun on AoE, being able to back-to-back spam out Divine Storm to mow down your packs. And they've also emphasized Wake of Ashes as a big button, with tons of synergy tied into it with both retribution talents as well as your new hero talents. With Radiant Glory, for example, you can no longer pop Awakening Wrath. It instead has a chance for holy power spent to proc, or whenever you press Wake of Ashes. And with the addition of Herald of the Sun hero talents as well as Templar, your Wake of Ashes works as a trigger, if you will, for the hero talents. Herald of the Sun gains Dawn Light, which are dots that proc on enemies or friendly. Wake of Ashes guarantees these, as well as Avenging Wrath when it procs, so when you Wake of Ashes you spawn up to 6 Dawn Lights that deals a metric ton of damage and AoEs everything. Oh, and you also spawn laser beams between you and your Dawn Lights, you know, kinda like Unholy DK's Hell Chain, but these are holy. And you also gain a ton of haste from each Dawn Light, making the rotation very fast-paced and a ton of fun. Templar follow a similar path, but upon popping Wake of Ashes, it turns into a new ability called Hammer of Light, which is a big old AoE nuke, empowering you and causes you to start spewing out Empyrean hammers from the sky to bonk your enemies on their head. Playing around the Shake the Heavens buff you gain from Hammer of the Light, which greatly increases the amount amount of Empyrean hammers you spawn whilst being extended by your holy power generators, which is a fun little gameplay loop. All in all, the war within Red Pala is very fast-paced, spammy, without being complex, fairly easy to pick up and just decimate stuff. Playing around a 30-sec cooldown, Wake of Ashes makes you feel like you never lose momentum. You always have it ready for every single pack in a dungeon or part of a raid boss where you might need that extra while simultaneously having an absolutely absurd amount of survivability. If you ever wanted to just stand in stuff for the heck of it, well, Red got you covered. Oh, and you can immune stuff. On top of this, they also bring combat res, cleanse toxin, sacrifice, and a ton of off healing. I mean, even the laser beams from Herald of the Sun does a ton of healing if you line it through players. Oh, and you can still do 80% of your damage from range if you happen to need to run away from a mechanic. Next out, number 3, Fury Warrior. Mainly with the Mountain Thane hero talents, but Slayer is good as well. Fury Warrior in the War Within plays largely like good old Fury Warrior. Generate ton of fury, spam out rampages, and burst down packs with Odin's Fury, Ravager, or Blade Storms, Thunderous Roars, and potentially a spear as well, whilst spreading bleeds and gushing wounds with Bloodthirst. So these Slayer hero talents empowers your execute through various talents. Slayer strikes passively proc and makes execute hit harder, as well as give you sudden death procs for more executes. Oh, and sudden death also increases the number of hits your Blade Storm does up to 3, and you also apply Overwhelmed on mobs, increasing your damage dealt to them, and it gives Bloodthirst a chance to unleash a Flurry of Steel, which is, you know, an AoE that deals a ton of damage but also applies Overwhelmed for more damage, which you can further empower in the Furry Tree, with Unhinged making every other hit of Blade Storm also cast Bloodthirst, which works with your Whirlwind buff, so each of those free Bloodthirst during Blade Storm will in turn hit 5 targets, and each Bloodthirst has a chance to AoE due to Slayer talents. But the real fun, in my opinion, is with Mountain Thane, aka the real enhancement spec. Mountain Thane forces you to play Thunderclap as Fury, but it's actually a good thing, because as Mountain Thane, your Thunderclap does what Whirlwind does, effectively replacing it in your rotation. So your Thunderclap will trigger Whirlwind's Meat Cleaver as well as all other talents tied into it. And Bloodthirst has a chance to turn Thunderclap into a Thunder Blast, making it into a giant nuke, which funnily enough deals Stormstrike damage, which not even Enhancement Shaman Stormstrike does. Make it make sense? This is incredibly visually pleasing, with that big stomp that just explodes in lightning everywhere, whilst you also slam down lightning strikes to hit your enemies, which is also part of these hero talents. So lightning strikes have a chance to proc from Raging Blow, Execute, and Thunderclap / Blast, which in turn has a chance to give 2 empowered Bloodthirsts that deals more damage, gives more rage, and has no cooldown. But overall, like I mentioned earlier, it plays very much like good old Fury, but with a lot of fun sprinkled on top of it. Incredibly fast-paced war machine is probably the best way to describe it. Even though I love Whirlwind, I'm loving Thunderblast more, and weaving in Thunderclap to trigger Meat Cleaver works incredibly well. Did I mention it looks great? Clap clap! Next out is number 2 with an explosive entrance, the reworked Survival Hunter. Now this rework I am a bit in love with. The new playstyle and rotation is incredibly satisfying, with tons and tons of bursty boom booms. Now everything revolves around your wildfire bombs and explosive shot, giving us a taste of the Tinker class fantasy, while also adding in a gameplay loop of buffing your various high impact abilities through Kill Command and Tip of the Spear talent, which makes it so that each Kill Command gives you 1 charge of Tip of the Spear up to 3, each charge increasing your next ability's damage by 15% up to 30, depending on how much critical strike rating you have. Now even without Tip of the Spear, survival is incredibly fun to play, but with Tip, it becomes even more fun as you have that gameplay loop to play around, making sure you weave in kill commands and spending tip charges, which also gives value to kill command on AoE. It doesn't feel like a dead button. And then of course spending tip of the spear on bombs and explosive shot, for example. Also, did I mention there's explosions? You're also able to build around having a 45 sec or 1 minute cooldown on coordinated assault that refreshes your wild bomb, instantly caps out your tip of the spear charges, increases you and your pet's damage, and gives you more kill command resets for 20 seconds. And when it ends, you're given 2 free explosive shot charges, so you're effectively able to pop 3 of them in a row for maximum boom boom. So even if a pack dies during coordinated assault, you still get the free explosive shots to cram down the next pack's throat, as it currently does not have a duration, which I hope stays. So there's never a risk of the charges running out, which is great. Now on AoE or in dungeons, it just never feels like it slows down, and having a very short cooldown on coordinated assault just feels great to play with. But you're also able to make it into a proper 2-minute cooldown, making it incredibly strong, but of course at the cost of having it less often. Now adding in hero talents to the mix doesn't really change how you play in any way, shape or form. Sentinel is visually pleasing AF. Go Blue Owl. Pack leader being pretty much 100% passive, but like I said, it still synergizes well with survival, but might lean more towards raiding or single target, where you focus a lot more on mongoose bite, slamming and kill commands. But yeah, overall survival is just an incredible amount of fun to play, with a fast-paced and rewarding rotation. Plus, they've gotten more defensives as well, so no pun intended, but their survival is a lot better as well. Plus, you can have this pet in the War Within, which I'd say is reason enough to play Hunter. And lastly, the number 1, the Coup de Grâce. Enhancement Shaman. Shocking, I know. But let me start off with, despite Enhancement having a lot of unaddressed crap in the corners, it's still by far the most fun. Storm builds in the War Within is insane currently, being all about spending now rather than only spamming Storm Strike. Trust me, we still spam it, but it's not the centerpiece anymore. It's more like the table on which the centerpiece stands on. That one being Tempest, a big uncapped AoE nuke that triggers from spending 40 Maelstrom or proccing Awakening Storms 3 times. So not only does Tempest deal an ungodly amount of damage, at the moment it also spawns a Lightning Wolf, giving you access to, well, many wolves. Oh, and on AoE you also get 3 charges of empowered free chain lightnings following every Tempest, with even more Maelstrom refunding talents on top of that, making you into a non-stop chain lightning spamming monster, or lightning bolt on single targets. Now it just flows incredibly well and has a very satisfying feedback loop. Enhancement that is, not Blizzard. Their feedback loop seems a bit broken at the moment. You're also flooded with a ton more haste, which of course fueled the rotation even more. Meanwhile, the Elementalist build that we played in Dragonflight works by and large the same way as in Dragonflight, currently also synergizing very well with the Stormbringer hero talents, due to that extra wolf you spawn from Tempest, because each wolf multiplicatively buffs your elemental blast, effectively turning it into an elemental nuke. However, totemic hero talents are currently turbo broken and not in a good way, but there's potential there if or when they decide to tackle totemic's issue. But until that, I am more than fine with blowing stuff up with Tempest, but both Elementalist and Storm builds are very much alive and well in the War Within, just perhaps not as well as it could be. Now Enhancement has also gotten a tad more survivability through some new talents, most noticeably is the Stone Bulwark Totem, but also a ton of new utility due to the reworked Shaman class tree, making Shamans overall even more valuable as far as utility goes. There are a lot of nasty curses, poisons, and fears in the War Within dungeons, tons and tons of casts and abilities you can interrupt with stuns, knockups, and incaps. But yeah, Enhancement is still on top for me, just from how it plays. I am a lover of both Storm and Elementalist builds, and like I said, Elementalist is roughly the same, whereas Storm got an incredible glow up and should perform overall better, of course, pending tuning, but at the very least it's just so much fun to play. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my top 5 melee. Again, this isn't what is the best, what is the meta, what is the god comp. It's mainly what I've found the most fun on the War Within beta. Simple as that. If you have any questions at all, hit me up in the comments. You can also become a patron or Twitch sub and get access to the Stankie Discord, where you can also get shoutouts in videos, things like that. Don't forget the usual stuff, like, comment, subscribe, slap that notification bell, and thank you all for watching. I will see you next time. Clap, clap.